Welcome back to another episode of Off Hours with Bourbon Lens. This is Jake Llewellyn along with Jake Ireland, your host here today. And today we're joined by George Laboda, one of my good friends, by way of the Daily Dram, of course. Can't have a George Laboda and Jake conversation without mentioning Brandon Smith. And we're excited to have you join it in this episode of Off Hours with Bourbon Lens because I think you exude just that, hey, I have this persona, but I have this off hours persona that, that is the real me, the true me, and that we're going to get to know a little bit today. So George, thanks for joining this episode.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So real quick on how George and I know each other, because this, we've had all your friends on. Now we have one of mine, Jake, is George and I got to know each other through the Bardstown Bourbon Company World's Top Whiskey Taster. Man, it's been a wild ride. It's been 3 years since all that started, and we got to hang out. And so that's how George and I know each other. And we got to know each other a little bit more when we hung out in LA and did Korean barbecue and hung out with his wife, because Ray knows how to turn up a little bit.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
But in a few months,
in a few months, she'll be ready to turn back up.
No, we had a blast in LA. I feel like, tried to take you to something that was LA specific, and Korean barbecue definitely does that. Checks a lot of the boxes. Cook your own food, get a little bit of LA culture in there, especially in Koreatown. So we had a fun. We actually drank a little bit too. So
we had a few pours, to say the least. We were feeling so good. We tried to do karaoke on a Sunday night at like 7:30.
They were closed, huh? They weren't even open yet.
Yeah. So you ever had one of those days on Sunday in LA, Jake, where you're just like karaoke 7:30?
I haven't done the karaoke at 7:30, but there was a time a few years ago that was, everybody was going to Koreatown for karaoke. And that was like, it was something that was always in the back of your head that, is it going to be one of these Sundays where, maybe you have a little going on in the early part of the day and you don't want to roll it over to karaoke. But yeah, living over here, it's a little bit of a hike to get to Koreatown. So we never made it too far, but yeah, it was definitely in the back of our mind.
That's definitely the LA way. You don't leave your 3 mile bubble.
No way.
Santa Monica is like 5 miles from me. And the only time I will ever see you if you live there is if I have something else to do, and I'm going to stop and have lunch with you while I'm over there.
This is the best when people are like, I'm in California this weekend. You around? You want to catch up? And I'm like, what part of town? And you're like, Irvine. I'm like, nope. That might as well be New York City. Like we're only 15, 20 miles apart, but that could take 3 hours. We don't know.
But it's nice when people come to visit because they don't know. Because Jake was actually in Irvine. And he's like, yeah, I'll come up and visit you. I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Come on up.
But the time I left on a Sunday, I ran into no traffic, right? So like if you're going to be strategic about it, because I've learned, right? The first time I was ignorant. I was like, I texted my friend that was out there. I'm like, hey, where's a great spot to eat? And they were like, where are you staying? And they were like, never heard of it. And so I was like, okay, great. I'm probably going to get shot. And then, so then you learn, like you take the interstate, you run into the traffic, you understand the times and all of that. And then I know like it's Sunday at like 9:30 in the like middle of spring, there's not much going on. So I should be able to get to wherever I need to get to in an hour. And it's what it took, but you have to strategically plot your way around Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing more frustrating when you think you've got it and you're like, if I leave right now, I'm not going to run into anything. And then you end up jumping on the 10 or the 405 or something, and it's a parking lot. And you're like, where in the world are all these people going right now? Like, how come no one knows how to drive?
Yeah, man, and before too long, San Diego and LA are going to merge. Like they are just on a collision course to like touching. And it's just it's crazy. Too many people in small space.
A lot of people, like you said, there's only, driving back from San Diego, it's like you get stuck in San Diego traffic trying to get out of it. And then you get like a little bit of a window where there's nothing. And you're like, oh, this is great. And then you jump right back into the LA traffic. So like you said, it's only going to continue to merge, so that it's only just going to be one big parking lot from San Diego to LA.
Got to start taking the train.
Yeah. Well, hey, good news. Amtrak is coming to Louisville. So, they're going to go Indianapolis Chicago by way of Indianapolis down to Louisville. So excited. The train system is getting back to Kentucky.
There we go.
That's my little tidbit of the day.
It'll only take you 8 hours to get from Chicago to Louisville, but we'll get there.
5 hours by car, 8 hours by train. But I could drink on said train. I could not drink in said car because you want to have a beverage by the time you get to Chicago.
Fair enough.
So George, for those people who don't know anything about you, can you just tell us a little bit about, how you got to where you are? Because it's been a nice career over the last, decade plus with Atlas and Mason and Gent's Lounge.
Yeah. So basically I was working for Discovery Channel right out of college. I was editing a television show for them. And I kind of had all these producers on my back that were just like, this is what everything should look like. This is what everything has to be. So I felt like I didn't have a creative outlet for myself. And I was like, what am I into? What do I like? And I was like, I like nice suits. I like cars. I like watches. I like whiskey. So how do I do that without spending any money on any of these things? Right. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start a YouTube channel because I have the video experience. I can produce content. And I'll teach guys, how to dress better, how to order a bottle of wine out to dinner, how to look at a wine list, and just kind of teach guys the things that a lot of guys don't want to admit they don't know, but they don't know. And they just kind of fumble and fake their way through it, which gets most people by because most people also don't know what they're doing. So like you're in a group of people that are like, yeah, that's the cool guy because he's the most confident about what he's doing, even though it's, maybe not necessarily the right way. So I started this YouTube channel, which became an Instagram, which now became TikTok, just to kind of teach guys things that, maybe not every father is teaching their kids right off the bat. And, if you grew up with rich dad versus blue collar dad, there's definitely different insights that are coming from both sides. So I try to bridge the gap between the two and just, trying to create some more decent human beings in the world.
That's good because men need it. More than anything right now. We got a lot of boys running around and we need more men. And one of the first questions I think I ever asked George, because I only know how to tie one knot when it comes to tying a tie. So I'll ask Jake this, when wearing a tie, which is not an LA thing probably, what knot do you go for?
I think it's the double Windsor. I think that's the go-to there. I know the single, the only reason I remember this is from like 7th grade basketball, is that whenever you were traveling, they made us dress up and you had to learn how you had to wear a tie every time. And so I remember learning it in like the beginning of 7th grade. It was like the single or the double, and I don't know any other ones. And I was like, I just like the symmetry of, the double. And it was like, okay, I'll go with that. And to this day, it's the only one I swore up and down forever that I would never, ever wear a bow tie in a wedding or anything like that. And then I had to wear a bow tie. So I'm hit or miss on that one. I kind of remember the steps, but I always end up having to watch a video to kind of refresh things. And then it's like, I'll do it in the car over and over and over again. Can't get it. And like the pressure's on that you're about ready to, to jump out and head out to the event. And then it's like, oh my God, I got it. Like, I don't know what I did any different, but I got it. Don't mess with it, and like pray that nothing, nobody pulls on it the rest of the evening.
Oh yeah.
So I actually found a bow tie company that it's a self-tie bow tie. So you tie it yourself, but once you get it right, they have a hook that you can just unhook it from your neck. So then it stays tied. If you get the perfect knot, it stays in the perfect knot and you can just reclip it on every time.
Oh, wow.
So
I'm a customer. Perfect. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Bow ties are brutal. I think I had to watch a YouTube video for a good solid 45 minutes before I could get the bow tie knot going. I'm a half Windsor. That was what my grandpa taught me. Like, I feel like that's like the classic, like your grandfather, your dad was like some type of shift worker. And he wore that, tie to church with his blazer. His blue blazer and his tie probably had like a cross on it or something, or a Bible verse. And very familiar with what my granddad wore to church, obviously, and most people from the South. And that was the only knot I've learned. And I've tried a double, and I've tried all the cool fancy knots. and got it, because there's also what people don't realize, and you can tell us this, the different collar will represent the different type of knots you should be wearing. And I ain't that sophisticated. I got, I got the collar stays on a normal collar. Either they're buttoned down or I got collar stays, and that's about it. I don't have the wide collar and the.
Most people are going to do like a semi spread now. So it'll come out just a little bit.
Yeah.
And your half Windsor, your full Windsor are going to fill out the collar nicely and look symmetrical, like you said. So it's going to be like, especially if you're like everything needs to be the same on both sides type of person, then that's the way to do it. I tend to, make things, I'm a little weird. So I'm like, I'm going to make something different. So my grandpa comments and be like, "You messed up the tie knot." And I'm like, I'm gonna go with one where we double wrap it around and make it a little thinner. So a little bit more contrasty. Yeah. But all fashion is you're either complementing something, so doing things the same, or you're contrasting super heavily. So the change is so drastic that it looks like you did it on purpose. That's pretty much how I relate everything to even food and fashion, right? Like either you complement or you contrast.
With the compliment, let's talk about pocket squares.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Are you? Yeah, I think like I see some people, I'm a big fan of them.
Yeah.
But you see some people that, that's like, that's not my thing. I don't do that. So do you see any sort of rhyme or reason as to like different areas, different, regions people go pocket squares, they don't, versus like how you actually fold it, or if they just kind of crumple it up and like, why, like,
yeah,
one or the other. Yeah.
So first of all, I think the biggest thing is to not get a pocket square that's the exact same pattern as your tie, right? So if you got like blue and yellow in your tie, you can work in blue and yellow, or just blue or just yellow into your pocket square. But also, if you got circles or triangles on your tie, maybe do something a little more paisley or a different shape, just so they're not exactly the same. So some things should tie it together, but not be the exact same fabric. And then I think it's more like confidence for people, right? Like the more sleek you fold it, if you just fold it in like a rectangle and it's just like a white line, that's like your Mad Men classic menswear. I don't really want to make a statement, but I'm doing things because I know it's the right way to do it type thing. And then the more you just kind of stuff it in there, let it hang out, it's like paisley and wild colors. That's, I feel like it's a nice way to kind of make a blue or gray suit a little more interesting, right? Because you're spending a ton of money on a good suit, and you can spend $30-$40 on a good pocket square and change up the look of the suit, right? So if you change your pocket square, your tie, your shirt, your plain blue or gray suit is going to look a little different every time, which, you don't want to look like you're wearing the same thing every day, but there's definitely cheaper ways to switch it up than just buying a ton of new suits.
Sure.
Yeah. And unless you go with the Steph Curry Express suit, then you could have a variety for a lot.
And it stretches too. You can shoot basketballs in that.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah. I don't know that I have ever thought about like, oh, let's go hoop in my suit pants. Ever, because
how many pickup games kick off after a wedding reception, or
yeah I mean like,
that's more for like garter catching, right? Like you need to be able to move.
Yeah. Yeah,
you got to be nimble.
Yeah, come down with the rock.
No. When those commercials came out, I was like, man, this is a terrible idea. And then I was watching. Everything goes back to a TV show or food with me. I was watching New Girl, and like two of the characters on the show, Nick and Schmidt, they developed the Schwoot, which is a sweatsuit suit that they have to wear. Like if you're going there, the pitch is if you're at the local gymnasia and your friend calls you up and I need to go get married, you can put on your swoot and go right to the wedding. Oh, so good.
I mean, everyone's going for comfort these days. And I'm like, some things maybe you're supposed to be a little structured, a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. I don't think the swoot ever caught on.
They make them though. The airplane suit now they call it, and there's like stretchy material. And I'm like, I'll just wear sweatpants on the plane and then wear a suit after. I don't need a fake suit that looks like sweat.
Man, there's a reason why you have it. Let's talk about that separately. For a second. It's like you have a carry-on bag for a reason. Like if you want to pack your suit, you have a nice like garment bag, you carry that on. And then yes, airport bathrooms aren't the greatest in the world, but suck it up and change into your suit when you get there, because you're going to have a crimply ass shirt on from sitting on that chair for a while. And you're going to be hot and sweaty because airplane air conditioners don't work half the time. So it's like, just take the extra step, get you a garment bag, fold it up, put your shoes in there, and just change in the airport bathroom.
100%.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, man. What do you see? Is there any trends or anything that you're starting to see, I guess, like from what was fashion, what was it versus, where things are going now from, folks our age to younger to, I guess to be on the lookout for?
Yeah. I mean, I think everything is getting less slim, more relaxed, baggier. I don't know if it's going to go quite like Jenko jeans baggy. But I think it's getting there in some circles, but I think we're just going to see less skinny jeans, more well-fitting pants that aren't mass. So it's just kind of a more relaxed silhouette. And a lot of like overshirts have been a big thing. I've been a big fan of them because it's just so easy to throw on a t-shirt and have like a quick light layer, especially in California. Like we get 3 months out of the year where we can maybe wear a jacket has some sort of lining to it. So, light layers are really the only way to stand out as a guy, is adding different layers to what you're wearing, or an accessory or two, like a necklace or a ring, because it's either a t-shirt and jeans and a hat or nothing else, right? Like how else do we switch it up?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we don't get dresses. We don't get, maybe we could have a cool belt, I guess. I don't know. But like cool shoes and jeans and a t-shirt and something on your hands or wrists.
Yep.
Man, I still think the best classic look is just a nice, like, whatever your favorite t-shirt is. Like I like cuts. I like true classic tees. Both of those like fit me really well. That are just a little bit longer because I'm tall. This is what I wear like 90% of the time. And then I have my Banana Republic Traveler jeans that got a little stretch in them because, football player got big thighs over here. And
same way.
Just like some classic, now I'm just wearing Ons all the time because those things are so comfortable. And like, that's what I just wear out. And then like, I'll just have like a bunch of Lululemon hoodies that I'll just throw on over. And like, I don't care if the shirt hangs out below it. Who cares?
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what you were wearing when you came to California.
1,000%. I'm light.
Because I remember the Lululemon hoodie because it had a nice texture to it. And I was like, that thing's dope.
Yeah. Oh, and so my mom didn't know that I had two of them. So I got a third one for Christmas. So I have a blue one, a gray one, and a black one now. And I'm hyped because I can just rotate through.
See, you got a uniform that works.
There it is. Yeah.
Don't worry. I mean, it's all about comfort, especially George. You'll experience this like here very shortly. Like when that little one comes along. Like if I were to dress up and be in slacks all the time, and like my son comes home who's a ball of energy at 3.5 years old, like I ain't got it. Like I can't keep up with him. Like I don't want to get those clothes dirty anyway, like, cause I don't want to dry clean them. So it's like, why not be comfortable? And more and more frequently, like in work settings, people are showing up in that way as well. The days of like your boss wearing a black suit, like to work every day in a tie, like those days are kind of over.
They are. I remember I was watching some Gen Z like talk, and they're like, yeah, what do you mean? Like a suit, like one of those old timey like uniforms for work? And I was like, oh my God. Like, I mean, not that we need to be casual all the time, but like, it's nice to dress up once in a while, stand out a little bit, have some fun. It's nice to dress up when you don't have to do it. Like if people force you to dress up, it kind of sucks and you don't really put that much effort into it. But when you want to, and you get to like kind of express yourself a little bit, that's what makes dressing up fun.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, at least.
No, I'm with you. Like there's nothing better than like getting like your favorite suit on, and you got your ironed shirt, and you got like, if you go tie, no tie, whatever. And then like I don't have enough time to always wear my like nice dress shoes. So like to get those spend a few minutes buffing them out. Like Derby is a ton of fun here for that reason. It's like, your suits hang in the closet, but then you can go get these exotic shirts and like it's fun because everybody is doing it. Now I can't wear a cool wide brim hat. Like I just have too big a head for that. So me and Pharrell would be friends. But you know, I can't do the hat thing, but if I could, I would.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is it okay? So question for you. Do you feel like more confident in your wild style at Derby because you know everyone else is in this, like everyone else is just as wild, right? Or would you do it on your own, like out to dinner, just like showing up and showing out?
So I think it has to do with my wife. So if my wife is dressing up, then I want to be that accent piece,
right?
To the prettier one of the two of us. And if she's like, hey, I want to go to Derby in jeans, well, guess what? I'm wearing jeans. Like, but you can dress up jeans with the blazer these days. But, you know, it has nothing to do with like everyone showing up. Like, I want to look good and impress my wife. I don't care really what else anyone else is thinking. And that's a difference of opinion from when I was 20 to, you know, being 33.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story that's actually pretty funny. I went to a birthday party for one of my cousins one time, and all her friends were there who didn't know what I do or anything. And I just wore regular jeans and a t-shirt. I was like, oh, we're in a backyard, I'm chilling, it's fine. And one of her friends comes up to me and is like, well, what do you do for a living? And I was like, oh, I run a fashion blog and do a little bit of stuff on Instagram. And she literally looks me like head to toe and is like, I guess so. And I was like, I will never dress casually ever again, because that was the most emotional pain I have ever felt from just a look.
It's like, you're apparently not very good at it.
Yeah, so. Yeah, they're like, are you sure? Like,
yeah.
So like, should all food critics be like just like overweight because like they just eat so much food? Like, people are silly, especially these real young millennials. They're silly folks. They haven't got enough seasoning on them. Not enough life. They're the brand new cast iron. They're not grandmas.
Very, very true. Very true.
Yeah.
But new cast iron's nice though. It's polished. It's smooth.
It is, but like, you know, when you're cooking your chicken, it just doesn't
have to work. It doesn't have to work as hard, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Like I need some of that bacon fat that I cooked like 3 weeks ago, like to be rendered into that chicken to give it all the flavor I need.
100%.
Yeah.
Need that seasoning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all got cast irons out there, Jake? I know y'all are fancy.
We do. No, that is my go-to. And it's funny because I love the fact, you just reuse it and everything. And like the other day, I was like wiping it down, and Lauren was like, "So you're gonna wash that?" I'm like, "Well, no, like I'm not putting any dish soap or anything in there." She's like, "What do you mean? Like there's stuff stuck to it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's the whole point of it. Like you heat it up, you can wipe it down and everything." And it's like, oh, what? Like she literally, like, to wrap her mind around the concept of like, no, you don't clean it with anything, and like. Last time you used it, some of that stuff's probably going to be on there. It's like, this is disgusting. I'm like, you weren't complaining, before when like whatever we were eating, it tasted good. And it's like, now that like, I have to hide it next time. She's like, how are we going to make these steaks? I'm like, I'm just going to throw them on a grill. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to cast iron.
You have the cast iron like, on the grill.
Meanwhile, I put the cast iron on the grill.
Oh man!
Wow, these grilled steaks are so juicy still. It's like none of the fat dripped out of the grill for some reason.
Well, it's like the same thing. The grill's nasty too. Like you kind of scrape it clean, but there's still some flakes of whatever was on
leftovers. Yeah.
500 degrees is going to kill any.
Yeah. So. I mean, and most of the time, let's talk about cooking, because we didn't get into this with Daphne because like that's her actual job. But like what I didn't know at all until I was like watched the Cooking Network way too often, or the Food Network, is that like you cook your steak. Let's say if you're I'm a medium guy. I'm not a medium rare. So let's say you cook it to medium rare and then you finish it off in the oven, like with just a little butter in there. And then you take it out and you baste it a little bit. Like that's been a whole game changer to like how I consume my meat. Is that like finishing off in the oven and then basting a little bit at the end? It's so much more flavorful.
I think it depends on the thickness of your steak, right?
Yeah.
Because like if you go super, super thick, you're going to need more time to get that middle where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
but like, yeah, your temp is going to come up 5 to 10 degrees from where you pull it. So what you pull it like 5 to 10 before you're ready, let it sit 5 minutes, put the juices in the butter, tent that thing with tin foil, then let that baby sit for 5-10 minutes.
Oh, it's grilling season. So I can't wait.
Dude, I haven't even moved to my new house yet, and I already have a Blackstone just in my apartment waiting to set it up for as soon as we move.
Oh, dude. I feel you. Like,
I'm so excited.
I know the Blackstone movement has kind of like calmed down a little bit, but like hibachi at the home, like that's $100 meal out easy. And like to be able to whip up your own like fried rice and vegetables, like that's game changing.
I mean, I make fried rice. I got a giant wok that somehow takes up so much space in my apartment, but like I'm just excited to do it outside and, make smash burgers outside so I can make more than 2 at a time. So I don't have to use the cast iron, like breakfast, pancakes, bacon, eggs, all in one thing. I'm
coming to George's house, man.
Hey, anytime, man. Come on over.
Yeah.
I need somebody to eat this crap because I'm going to get huge if I eat it all by myself.
All right. I'll bring the bourbon.
Bring the bourbon.
There we go.
There we go. No, that's funny. So, you've talked about cooking. Obviously that's a man thing. And I think more men are getting more comfortable in the kitchen, like at home, like, and gender roles are kind of, going out the way. But some of the other things that you kind of have taken, interest in, cigars and whiskey in particular, that's how, we connected. Like for you, when it comes to like elevating the experience, right, of being a person and being a man, like what's it like to have like these elements become so popular, like cigars and whiskey, to accentuate that experience of being you as an individual?
I mean, it's definitely cool to see the popularity of everything. I think sometimes in the circles that we run in, things seem a little bit more popular than they are because we are, obviously influenced by our circles. Because, I'd say probably less than 10% of the population smokes cigars, to be completely honest. But to me, all of my friends smoke cigars, so everybody smokes cigars, and it's wonderful. But it's so cool to see, people trying it and people getting into it. And, that's why I started the channel, was to just, it's so daunting when you're a newcomer to whiskey or to cigars to look at a shelf and be like, I have no clue. What do I do? And, my goal is to kind of at least get you in the right mindset of like how to smoke it, how to cut it, how to light it properly. So you're not already starting off kicking yourself in the head because you didn't cut it right. It starts to unravel. You didn't light it enough so it doesn't burn correctly. And then you're smoking way too quickly. So your mouth tastes like straight garbage after you did. And you're like, I hate cigars. And I'm like, well, maybe try a couple of these things and we might be able to, not that I'm, advocating for more people to do what they don't want to do, but like, if you want to have a good experience, at least start off on the right foot. Like, tasting whiskey, right? Like try it neat first. If you don't like it, add some water. Still don't like it, add some ice. Still don't like it, mix it with whatever you need to mix it to get the job done. But like, at least how those flavors are changing. You can experience the differences in between. And that's just, having knowledge of then trying, a bourbon versus a Scotch versus Irish whiskey versus Japanese whiskey. Like maybe that flavor profile doesn't fit. Not everybody likes tomatoes or cilantro.
Right. I think you're spot on too. I think, the first thing that when we launched Off Hours, we did this sort of Bourbon 101 kind of masterclass type of thing for people online. And it was the same thing. We're going to try it neat. We're going to smell it. We're going to taste it. We're going to talk about it. And then, and then we're going to add a little water, and then we're going to do a cocktail at the end. And just that idea. And we kind of talked about it, I think maybe before we jumped on, of it being very intimidating for people to walk into a bar and it's like, well, I don't drink bourbon. It's like, well, why not? And it's like, well, I don't like the taste of it. It's really harsh. And it's like, well, have you actually ever had it? And it's like, well, no, I just look at the faces, the people over here that had it. And you're like, maybe you should try it. And then it's something where like for us, the sort of takeaway for people was like, we want to educate you enough that if you go into a bar, you now understand like some of these mash bills, why things are the way they are, and what you actually could enjoy, you could gravitate towards, and what you know to stay away from. And it's like, if you know you had a high proof and it was too hot for you, and you want to put it in a cocktail, great. Here's some options for you that will lighten things up. And I think too, then it's less about asking who's with you, or folks that are there who a lot of times are wrong too. It's like they're just, they know a little bit more than than you do, but it's like, oh well, he said I should drink it that way, and it's like, well, why does he? Everybody's different. So it was interesting, and I think probably the same thing with cigars too, where it's like if you've only smoked them a certain way, or only knew a little bit about them, like you're missing half of the enjoyment of it, which is understanding why it is the way it is and how you should be enjoying it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, I think thankfully the internet has, put a lot of misinformation out there, but also a lot of good information that people can get. Because before, all we had was that one random uncle that was like, bourbon has to be made in Kentucky. And now I'm telling all my friends that bourbon has to be made in Kentucky, or else you can't call it bourbon, because my uncle's the coolest uncle I had, and he knows all this stuff. And now, now at least we kind of have the internet to be like, oh, your uncle maybe didn't know the full story. Not that he's wrong, but like,
still a great guy, but
yes. So like, I talk about that all the time. I'm just, trying to teach people and educate that, just when you hear one story from the most confident dude in the room, it's not necessarily that he's 100% right. He's just very confident that he's right. So it makes it way easier to believe someone that you respect and trust their opinions on other things that they know about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, even like you mentioned, like going and approaching a whiskey shelf. Like, it's so funny. You go to like here locally, like a Liquor Barn or Total Wine, and you see people and they're just like, what the hell is this? Like Toyland for adults. And they're like looking around, and you can tell like the associate is like pointing them in general directions of like, hey, and it's like 2 stars from freaking Total Wine. You're like, I'm going to wait till this dude's done talking to this person, and I'm going to tell them, don't buy 2 stars. Like, that's the first thing you're going to do.
Well, we got really good margins on these. So this is the bourbon you should be drinking.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, you have to ask them a variety of questions. And I feel like people, like when they go into whiskey, a lot like food, if you don't know like your flavors that are fun for you, it's hard to point people in general directions. And what might be on my palate is completely different. What might be on my palate is going to be completely different than what's on theirs. So it's like, I can tell you that a wheated bourbon like Maker's Mark is going to be sweet. Okay, great. But I can't tell you what other flavors you're going to get, because your palate's different than mine. And I think that's one of the things that I hate seeing associates in stores be like, hey, this is what you should do because you like sweet whiskey. Well, what flavor profiles do you like? And we can then get you to like, oh, you like nuttiness? Well, I'm going to recommend Jim Beam. Like, yeah, because like it's peanut butter and nuts. And like, if you want something sweet, I'm going to a wheated bourbon, but it may not be Maker's Mark. It might be Old Elk. Like, cause all good whiskey doesn't come from Kentucky.
I mean,
exactly.
So,
I think it's interesting too with the tasting notes. We, when we were doing these events or tastings, and it's, people are really, I think, nervous or scared to really kind of give their thoughts of this is what I'm tasting or this is what I'm smelling, thinking that it's wrong. And it's like, we have to constantly like tell people that like, this is totally subjective. Like what I taste and smell and everything is going to be totally different potentially than, what you're into or what you get. Just based off of, your own taste buds and everything. So there's no wrong answer, and it's like, just own it. And then you start to get more and more people that chime in, and it's like, sure, you kind of get, and you're like, oh yeah, I can taste that and I can smell that and everything. And you start to, figure out some ideas of what things are that you're like, what it is that you're actually, experiencing. But that's the first thing we notice is that people are just like, I don't want to speak up because there's a right and a wrong to this. And it's like, well, no, like there's not, and just be confident with it.
100%. There's yeah, what you smell and what other people smell is, I tell people that all the time. Like, you see the tasting notes and they're like vanilla, caramel, apples, red berries. And like, a lot of people, I feel like, assume that you're actually putting caramel, vanilla, apples, and red berries somewhere in the distillation process. And it's just the fact that when molecules line up, sometimes the scents line up like they smells like bananas or smells like apples, and it's the same molecules in a different arrangement that give off that scent, no matter if it's actually from a banana or if it's from your whiskey. And and what you smell is could be completely different from, or like a different layer of what's smelling. Then if you add water, those molecules are going to change in a whole different direction and give you new smells. So you're going, like, the less water soluble molecules are going to stay there. Higher ones are going to burn off. So you're going to smell that a little bit more, a little quicker, which is going to open up the whiskey, but it's just changing the chemical makeup of the whiskey. Yeah. So, whatever you want to do, there's no wrong answers. And it's just about having good drinks with good people in the end. Like, I don't need to nerd out about, like the bananas on the palate of this one. I just want, like, it's good. Let's have a good conversation now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like we all probably get that question all the time. And it's like, I want to drink to have a social conversation. Like, are there aspects of what we do that is work? Yeah. I write reviews. Okay. But I'm not going to tell you what score it is. I'm going to tell you if I'd buy it again.
Right.
That's what I'm going to tell you, because I can't judge you. And I could go on a tangent on whiskey ratings, which I'm not going to do because I have a very strong opinion on them. But what I can tell you is it goes back to the experience. Everything that you just said is right. Like, I want to have a bunch of dudes over, open up any bottle you want to open up, and like, let's have a conversation about life and our families and our friends and our struggles at work. Like, I think one of the things that dudes need to get comfortable with is having better conversations and just saying, I'm good. Like,
I agree. Mm-hmm. I get a group of guys together every Thursday night for cigars, and we get, like tequila brand owners, other influencers, people that are lawyers and real estate agents. And literally we sit around, smoke a cigar, and literally we talk about, wives, girlfriends, like, struggling to buy a house in California type thing. And then just like, it's good to have, it's honestly better than therapy for me. Like, every Thursday I look forward to hanging out with, 6 to 10 dudes and just kind of, asking questions about, how are you dealing with this certain situation? And we're all pretty open and pretty honest, which is it's a rare thing to have, especially for, guys getting older, to have a group of friends that still meets regularly, which is such a sad thing, right? Like, unless you had like a bowling league or like church, those were like the only thing my dad ever had that was like guy time. Like, I'm meeting with my boys every, because we have to. We paid for the league. We got to do it.
Gotta throw that strike. See it, spring in, see you in the fall, boys.
Exactly.
No summer programming at church. So see you when school starts back. Like,
exactly.
No, I definitely get that. But like, man, like, some of the best conversations I've had have been like over a fire with a dram, and it's just like, it just seems like everyone can relax and like the guard comes down. And there's just so much that we deal with, and dudes think it's cool and macho to like, I'm okay. Like, no, what's okay is saying you're not okay. It's like, Jake asked me, hey, how's it going? And I'm sure you probably full out thought when I got on here, I was gonna say, it's good. But like, I just talked about like the challenges that I was having at work, and like, and then he could relate to those things. So it's like, it's cool to have like, well, I guess the better question is the better statement is, it's cool to say what you think, but you have to make sure the people on the other end of what you're saying are going to reciprocate to like have that conversation. Because if there's like, oh, I just wanted you to say you're okay, then it's like, this isn't a good one.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Sorry about your luck. Yeah. What else is new? No, I think that's where we, to your point, George, it's like, it's really tough, I think, to have a group of guys together. And if you're going to do it regularly too, to get 6, 8, 10 guys who are willing to have that sort of style of conversation where you can get deeper into, what's going on and, versus, hey, did you catch a football game the other night? And it's like, a very superficial type of stuff that, people are going to chime in on. But I think that, it takes a lot of, the right group of guys in there or girls to speak their mind and not, not feel like you're going to have this weird, awkward silence or something if you say something and they're like, ooh, like, I've never heard that before. Yeah, exactly. Who invited this guy? Yeah. It's like,
yeah, no. And like, that's what I don't think people see a lot behind the scenes is that men have these conversations. Like it's happening. It's not happening probably at the clip it needs to, but it is. And I think, someone like yourself, George, like is giving people the opportunity to create those experiences and those shared moments. And I think that's what's really cool about social media in a way. It's got its good and it's got its bad, but like this is a really cool aspect of it.
Oh, 100%. Like, I mean, none of my friends are like big whiskey guys, right? Like they come over and they're like, holy crap, let's try some stuff. Like show me the way. And it's so fun for me to teach and educate, but like I need boys, like Brandon and Jake, like we can nerd out about like mash bills and like talk about master distillers and like what's going on in the industry. And like my friends are like, yeah, this one's spicy. Cool. And I'm like, yeah, it's 130 proof. Like it's going to knock your socks off.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, like it still tastes pretty good though. I'm like, yeah.
And
awesome.
Then what I was going to say, it's going to put hair on your chest. Oh man.
But yeah, like honestly, I don't have a ton of local whiskey enthusiasts that I can chat with, but through social media and meeting all these people, it's so great to, be able to like DM and be like, oh, did you pick up this new bottle? Or, talk about certain things with, people I don't necessarily even know in real life, but they're like, good friends. And I think half the people I've met on here, like travel to meet them. I met them from Instagram, just DMing them for years. And then we meet up at a bar, like we've known each other forever, start getting drinks. And, now I'm, in that person's wedding years later, which is wild, right?
No, it's crazy. It's crazy how those moments that are off hours really. And honestly, like those are the times where, life happens. And like, that's where the best things in life happen and the best relationships happen.
100%.
So, as we think about, kind of bringing this full circle, one of the things we ask everyone at the end of these episodes, it's the big philosophical question, right? What's your piece of advice that you would give to someone or to people about experiencing those moments in between? Last year, it was big on cell phones, like put your phone down. So I'm going to say, don't pick that one. But what would be the piece of advice that you would give to the listeners?
I would say just be willing to learn, right? Like, try to embrace every experience as a learning opportunity and, don't try to knowledge your way through every situation. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to be curious, and it's okay to actually, admit you don't know something, and then quite honestly, just sit there and absorb information, learn, and, take what you've learned from every different aspect that you've had a conversation about, put those things together, form your own thoughts, and then you have a good opinion that's not just regurgitated from one place or another. You've really like done a little bit of research and learned a little bit. So you can really enjoy more things in those moments that are just in between by, being open and willing to, learn about different aspects of everything. like culture, whiskey, life. Just be curious.
Ooh.
I think is that Walt Whitman or Disney? One of the two.
So somebody. But I mean, at the end of the day,
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
George Laboda. Yeah.
Hey, man, he's Jason Sudeikis, and that show's taken over the world. It seems
the best show on TV.
Yeah. Well, we need feel good stories in this world because got enough bad news happening. But George, man, we truly appreciate you joining us, man. That was great wisdom because, man, being curious is something that I don't think enough of us are, especially after the pandemic. We dug into our ways, and we don't want to understand the other side, even if we don't agree with the other side. So I think that's a really good thing for people to think about. You know, if anyone wants to follow George, go over to @ListenMason on Instagram or TikTok. You can find him there. As always, you can learn more about Off Hours at Drink Off Hours on Instagram and search them on all your shelves. Hopefully you can find a bottle around you. And then lastly, if you want to find out more about Bourbon Lens, go over to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook @Bourbon Lens. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.